Well, today I'm talking about the last man standing. And who is most often the winner? Who is most often successful? That's the last man standing. It doesn't take super talent. It takes a very stubborn attitude to become resilient enough to ignore the mind's tendency to make a story of everything and just stay with what is. To just stay with the situation and not fall down the rabbit hole into story. And back in ancient times, it was said in Japanese Bushido, which was samurai, that the number one asset in a battle was the ability to remain with clarity and to remain with awareness and calmness in the center of the chaos of the battle. And they'd use meditation as the linchpin to the ability to not only perform, but to stay alive, which is the number one aspect of performance, isn't it? Because if you're not alive, you're not successful. So it was said then that he who hurried to battle and came rushed to the fight would surely die, not because of their inability to fight, but because of their lack of awareness in the battle, which requires a high level of spatial awareness and a control of one's own thoughts. And further to that, an understanding and a grounding of one's own emotions so that they can use the energy of those emotions as a fuel to a higher level of energetic release and power. So the samurai is a metaphor for sports performance, isn't it? Or for any other performance for that matter, really, when you look at it. There is a real correlation between these ancient texts and the nature of sports performance. So success is really about the last woman or man standing. And the only person who can stand for you is you. And if you don't stand for yourself, then you really don't stand for anything. And it's just to get that relationship right, because we often find ourselves lost in the outer process or the outer purpose of what it is we're doing. And when we collapse, when we think we fail, it's a capitulation of our ability to stay grounded with our own experience, regardless of what is occurring around us. In essence, it's a lack of awareness. When we're over-engaged with the outer world in judgment of what's happening, we're disengaged from the only stability that we have to us, which is our own grounded awareness. Because whatever happens within it and it's seen, it doesn't change. So that's the only stability we've got. So when we allow what happens to remove that awareness, we get sucked down the rabbit hole of victimhood and mental story. And then we conceptualize our reality and turn it into a projection. And when we resist the reality, we live in the projection, we get into trouble. Ultimately, because there is no ground, we lose our power. And in terms of performance, this is a drain on that our performance suffers from. In Bushido, they termed it as seeing it as a catastrophic loss of personal power that could, and most probably would, lead to death. So how do we move into this higher state of awareness? By deconstructing our own patterns of avoiding discomfort and seeking safety, because there really isn't any safety. So this means that in order for us to deconstruct who we've been, we have to move away from the ideas that the mind has about safety, right? And then we have to let go of the discomfort of the biology in our own brains that are wired for safety. And from a neurological science perspective, neurons are wired together. So at first, we're fighting this chemical reaction in our own brains. And that's why these changes that we make are so uncomfortable at first. But the discomfort is certainly worth it. This rewiring of the circuitry of our own mind and thinking is certainly worth it in terms of our performances. With consistent practice, we literally rewire the way that we think. The ancients already had this information and we lost it. Interestingly, now neuroscience is confirming something that we already knew. hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So yes, the last man standing is a metaphor. It's the representation of you coming back to the only ground that you can control. And that's your reaction to what happens. And not one single other thing is under control. Thanks for listening.